Father Vogel, we continue looking at these meditations in time of retreat by Saint Jean-Baptiste de la Salle. We're at the second meditation, the means that those responsible for the education of children must use to procure their salvation. The first point, consider that it is a practice only too common for working people and the poor to allow their children to live on their own, roaming all over like vagabonds, as long as they are unable to put them to some work. These parents have no concern to send their children to school because their poverty does not allow them to pay teachers, or else, obliged as they are to look for work outside the home, they have to abandon their children to fend for themselves. So you can think in terms of the historical context. Many of these boys that they're teaching in the Christian schools are of poor background, and their families, they regrettably, Jean-Baptiste will say, is that they can't focus as much on the children's education because they have to work in order just to survive. So he says that the children can go off on their own. They can get into all sorts of different kind of trouble. Then he says that the results of this condition are regrettable, for these poor children, accustomed to lead an idle life for many years, have great difficulty adjusting when it comes to time for them to go to work. Furthermore, through association with bad companions, they learn to commit many sins that are very difficult to stop later on because of the persistent bad habits they have contracted over such a long time. So, some unfortunate side effects of children just kind of fending for themselves if they don't have a lot of guidance and support from by their parents, who have to focus on other things, is that they kind of go off on their own, and it's kind of idleness. And so when it's time for them to focus and work, it's really difficult for these children to be able to do that. Maybe we notice that in some of the students we teach, as well as, when they get older, are they going to be able to really enter into the workforce and focus in that way. But even more important is spiritually what it does. He says that they can associate with bad companions, negative peers that draw them into committing many sins started young and that continue and that are really hard to break later on. So that's a great difficulty, is that we want to get in there and be able to guide the students before they get older and fill in these bad habits that they won't be able to get rid of in a later date as easily. So God gives a solution, he says. God has had the goodness to remedy so great a misfortune by the establishment of the Christian schools, where the teaching is offered free of charge and entirely for the glory of God, where the children are kept all day, learning, reading, writing in their religion, and are always busy, so that when their parents want them to go to work, they are prepared for employment. So, a solution that God gives are schools, our Catholic schools, because we're able to not only keep children busy and help teach them the good kind of work ethic that will be useful later on when they have to work as adults, but also, even more importantly, spiritually. It will help guide them to keep them safe from those temptations, those sinful habits that could otherwise build up. So he says, the schools are offered to them for free. This is especially true for those schools. In our schools as well, we try to keep our tuition as low as possible and assist individuals with scholarships and such like that. Thank God, who has had the goodness to employ you to procure such an important advantage for children. Be faithful and exact to do this without any payment, so that you can say with St. Paul, the source of my consolation is to announce the gospel free of charge, without it having cost anything for those who hear me. So, yes, I think this is, an important factor for those considering to teach in a Catholic school. You know that you're not going to make as much as maybe other schools or other careers, but this is truly a vocation in which you're trying to share the gospel with the Lord. And our schools, being unable to pay you teachers more, which we wish we could, it does require part of that sacrifice and saying, no, my desire is to work with Jesus to show forth his truth to these children so that they will have salvation. And being in this environment, being able to have the freedom to share the faith in that way is different from other schools. So thanks be to God for each of you of having said yes to God, who in his goodness has employed you at Catholic Christian schools, or whatever role you may have as a parent, a catechist. Thanks be to God that he has given you this vocation to assist the youth in finding God and finding salvation in him. God bless.